people are looking for ways to be social and they're not drinking as much.
We thought we had an answer as to why drunk people have very bad ideas.
I thought it was gonna be good, but not this good.
Today on Spotlight, in recognition of the 100th anniversary of Prohibition, homegrown beer that gives back. Plus, a science teacher turned spirit maker and one of only 6 females doing it in the U.S. And a competition to become the St. Louis Blues anthem singer. But first, let's take a look at the non-alcoholic movement here in St. Louis. It's Sunday, and you're watching Spotlight.
Music, drinks, conversation. Even after 110 years, that's what runs the oldest bar in St. Louis, Pop's Blue Moon. But look a little closer. One of those things isn't what it used to be. On Saturday nights, there's no alcohol at this bar.
It's a little crazy. It's something different.
Not only are the alcohol bottles removed,
We take out anything in the bar that we feel is a trigger for people, like bar mats or signage. It's really hard to find a bar without a beer sign or a neon or something that's saying, drink alcohol. The message is really heavily ingrained into our social spaces.
Joshua Grigaitis started this booze-free experiment last November.
I was going to do 1 or 2 parties, and it turned into every Saturday. And by the 3rd week in November, when we were doing these, I knew we weren't going to turn back. I was like, this isn't going to stop. It was just so much interest.
He's not the only one. More St. Louis bars are now offering more non-alcoholic options.
I really wanted my menu to be inclusive so that everybody that came through those doors had something to enjoy at the bar. I'm seeing people of all ages and all demographics and backgrounds coming in and ordering these non-alcoholic beers and zero-proof cocktails. I think that it is a trend that is turning into a social movement because people are looking for ways to be social and they're not drinking as much.
She's right. According to the beverage market analysis company IWSR, in 2018, alcohol consumption dropped in the U.S. for the 3rd year in a row. And globally, the World Health Organization found the number of drinkers is down 5% since 2000, 10% in Europe.
We're catering to our customers, and if the customers are coming in and they're wanting something besides alcohol, then okay, then let's find a way to offer it.
And several of the NA beers of choice, not just locally, but nationwide, are brewed and bottled right here in St. Louis.
It has really taken off, and people have really embraced the brand, which is really great.
Wellbeing Brewing's Tom Halaska will tell you that's because this beer is brewed unlike any other in the U.S., thanks to a special machine imported from Germany.
A lot of people, the way they make non-alcoholic beer in the United States is they do something called stop fermentation, which means they use a yeast strain that kind of piddles off 3/4 of the way through, and then they boil the beer to remove the alcohol. So what we do is we fully make beer, drinkable, ready to drink beer, and then we run it through a vacuum distillation process, which allows for us to remove the alcohol at about room temperature. So we don't really change the molecular structure of the beer, we don't harm the beer, it doesn't get boiled, it doesn't burn. So what comes out is a product that has aroma, taste, and health benefits.
Health benefits in beer?
Beer is inherently healthy, okay? It's the alcohol that negates the health benefits. Heavenly Body is 68 calories, Dark Amber is 80 calories, 0 sugars, low carbs, and the polyphenols is actually what brings everything together. So the polyphenols are anti-inflammatories.
But it's not just this brand getting attention.
I almost don't want to believe that we're at the forefront of this movement, but if you believe Facebook and Instagram and every other thing on social media, then yes, we are.
St. Louis's oldest bar is showing the world something new.
It's okay to do the same thing you would be doing, except without alcohol.
follow HEC Media on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Go to hecmedia.org for the arts and authors,
Completely accidental because I never set out to write a book.
culture and community,
Considered to be the oldest organic farm west of the Mississippi.
science,
I'm wearing 3D glasses, operating on a high-definition screen.
and history.
I was really blown away by the strategy that was used through the Underground Railroad.
Education,
I look forward to the day when they graduate high school. I want to be a part of that.
films,
It's a long cost penny.
Finding the coin places the site firmly in the 13th century.
what's happening now around St. Louis, and more.
This is powerful, seeing my mother's story being told.
Search all of HEC Media's award-winning content. HEC Media has earned the Mid-America Emmy Award for Overall Excellence 4 times. See for yourself at hecmedia.org.
Hidden away in St. Louis's LaSalle Park neighborhood sits the rustic, artsy Hands Brewing Company. It's a hotspot for beer lovers, a passion for its workers.
Early on, I realized that it was more than a job. It was a career.
We started out with 4 core, what we call our core beers. So we had an oatmeal brown, a red ale, an IPA, and a blonde ale. Since then, we've really diversified. Any given year, we're putting out 50 plus different styles of beer.
Beer and now spirits, gin and vodka. But what has also grown is the heart of this operation, a sense of brewing something bigger than beer.
We always wanted to be more than a brewery. We wanted to be a pillar of the community, kind of a fabric of the city.
We're all from St. Louis, and we really just wanted to be able to give back to the city and see the city grow.
4 years into their journey, the company launched Citywide, an American pale ale. For every case sold, $1 goes to a local not-for-profit. But workers go a step further, teaming up with donation recipients in a unique way.
It's more than giving a check. It's really going into their organization and learning about them and their ethos and their strategy. And then we can take a little bit away from that also. So it's been a tremendous experience for us.
This year, they teamed up with Mission St. Louis, which offers literacy programs, jobs training, and internships.
For us, really, I think the main thing has been the heart of their company. When I think about individuals like Kevin and just really not just desiring to help, but really wanting to understand the situations of individuals that we work with.
Situations of clients like Marcus Billingsley.
I grew up playing basketball, loving it.
Once a highly recruited high school basketball star, Marcus's life took a wrong turn when he got involved in gangs, guns, drugs, and eventually prison. Once out, he wanted to change his life.
Me having my 3 children, that was a big part.
The idea of turning his life around became reality after an internship at Hands through its partnership with Mission St. Louis.
It was something new, being around a group of people that I didn't know. You know what I'm saying, and opening up and communicating, but it was a great experience.
The experience turned into a job, new friendships, and a fresh outlook at a place where he feels valued as a hard worker and as a person.
It's not really just working here, they wanted me to grow as a person, as a man. It was just like a life-changing thing.
Changing lives one day at a time. The brewery picks 4 different organizations each year to work with, and their employees volunteer with them, doing everything from helping to restore urban parks to helping with vision screenings of local students. The company also added a Citywide Pils beer, which helps fund scholarships for local entrepreneurs. Now, Hands Brewing is expanding its social mission even wider, launching a new beer called Statewide that will support one Missouri charity each year. The logo of Hands Brewing refers to founder Kevin Lemp's family, he, his wife, and 2 children. He hopes the legacy he's building here will continue.
I want them to find their brewery. I want them to find their passion. I want them to wake up every morning and it not just be a Monday, but be really inspired to tackle that day. So that's what I want them to see. I want them to see that if you work really hard and you're polite and you're thoughtful, that you can pretty much make anything happen.
You're watching Spotlight.
HEC Films. Explore. Inspire. educate, and entertain. HEC Films, just one of the many facets of award-winning content you'll find at hecmedia.org.
You know that age-old question, often uttered by disgruntled students?
What good is this? When am I ever going to need this? Oh, yeah.
Benay Shannon heard it for 11 years.
See, it's trickling out already.
As a science teacher.
So obviously, there's a lot of purpose to science here. It's like one big science experiment every day.
She's since traded her high school lab for something a bit different. And yet the same.
You know how in class it was lab day, and that was the best day. It's lab day every day here.
Benay now experiments as a distiller.
That's pretty good.
Making alcoholic spirits like vodka, gin, and whiskey for the company she and her husband opened 2 years ago, Restless Spirits Distilling.
You always got to blame the husband, right? It's my husband's fault.
In the beginning, she had little interest in his idea of opening a craft distillery. After all, she didn't drink alcohol of any kind.
I wasn't interested in spirits. It wasn't anything that I even thought about.
But when her husband and a business partner realized the distilling was a bit complicated.
With my science background, I was the perfect patsy. So they were like, sweetie, could you maybe help us figure this out? And I thought, well, this sounds like fun. You know, it's like this big giant science experiment. I could totally get into this.
She started experimenting in their kitchen on her breaks from school.
I spent a whole summer just doing this. It was pretty awesome.
When Benay decided it was time to take her experiments full scale, she and Restless Spirits went big, having this 13-foot tall, 500-gallon copper pot still hand-hammered in Kentucky. And this thing's pretty special, especially in the United States.
This is the first Irish-style pot still that they've ever built, but they were pretty excited to take on the project.
The pot still is an iconic symbol of traditional Irish whiskey distilling. Its shape affects the alcohol's flavor.
The alcohol molecules will actually sometimes get connected to some of the other organic molecules in the solution.
Visit the distillery and you'll see how Benay quickly slips back into science teacher mode when explaining it all.
When I give tours, it's definitely different than, like my husband, he's all storyteller and all this stuff, and I'm just all about science. You know, it's like, oh, and then it gets to this temperature, and then it does this, and it's kind of awesome.
Good thing she loves it, because pot stills are also known to be a lot of work.
Pot still's inefficient, you know, it's a messy process for sure, but it's the way to go.
If you haven't noticed, Benay does not shy away from obstacles.
People always comment on, it's the cleanest distillery they've ever seen. I think it's because I'm a mom and a grandma, so.
A grandma in an occupation that's physically tough.
I mean, I've got a few war wounds, but.
And male-dominated. She's the only female distiller in Missouri and one of only 6 in the nation.
We have a more defined palate. We have a better sense of smell. So if anyone's going to make a good product, it's going to be the women. I mean, honestly.
Her award-decorated bottles and customer testimonials seem to prove her theory.
Everything down the line, I was just positively surprised with. It was very good. You can tell it was a quality product made with heart.
I'm not a whiskey person at all. I usually drink gin or vodka pretty normally, but I actually really like the whiskey here.
Who knew science?
This fluid dynamics in my fermenter. It's the biology of the molecules in the still.
Combined with the hard work and patience of a teacher.
Everything's about waiting. Everything's about waiting for the still to get warm. Everything's about waiting for the barrels to age. Waiting for everything.
Could taste so good.
Yeah, experimenting. That's my favorite thing, is just being able to learn, just geek out on it. You want it to be great. You want people to love it. And so I'm always about, how can I tweak this to make it even better? Yeah, it's awesome. It's kind of fun to see in real world how what you're doing in school can actually, you know, matter. It makes sense.
At Restless Spirits Distilling in Kansas City.
I love it.
I'm Angie Weidinger.
HEC Media, bringing you culture and community. Find all of HEC's positive programming and award-winning content at hecmedia.org.
On a mission to analyze connections in human brains and to discover more about brain networks that control function, Nico Dosenbach boldly goes where no man has gone this far before, into the MRI scanner, and often collecting many hours of high-quality data on his own brain and the brains of fellow scientists at Washington University School of Medicine in St. Louis. They call themselves the Midnight Scan Club.
Walking to my friend's car and we were talking about this and how we couldn't afford it. And then he went, and I think he almost immediately regretted, he went, "Nico, you know that after midnight, scan charges are 90% off." And in my memory, I slapped him on his back really hard. And I looked and I was like, "That's it, we're doing it."
And so, the Midnight Scan Club was born.
Eventually, when we had more members, made a logo that's like a brain that looks like a skull, and we put it on a t-shirt, and we decided to be a club.
Access to affordable research led to the breakthrough discoveries about the often ignored part of the brain, the cerebellum. It's located on the underside of the brain and was thought to only be involved in motor function, controlling movement. It is sensitive to alcohol, which is one of the reasons why people who've had too many alcoholic drinks stumble around. But that's only part of the effects of alcohol on the cerebellum. Alcohol sensitivity may show in other ways. Postdoctoral researcher Scott Merrick was brought into the club to focus on the cerebellum. He measured the timing of brain activity and found that the cerebellum was consistently the last step in neurologic circuits. The club made the discovery that the cerebellum is the mind's quality control center for our thoughts, involved in higher function.
It's like the executor of the executive. Even the CEO needs to be controlled.
The new data may help explain why someone who is inebriated not only stumbles around, but also shows poor judgment. Alcohol-fueled effects on the cerebellum may cause the breakdown of quality control over executive functions.
The classic sobriety test is actually a test of cerebellar function, or more specifically of the motor parts of the cerebellum. So when we had our results and we realized that only 20% of the cerebellum are dedicated to motor function, it's actually 80% is about, correcting your thoughts, essentially. We thought we had an answer as to why drunk people have very bad ideas. It's because the cerebellum isn't there to correct them.
Understanding the effects of alcohol was more of a side note. The hope of the research is discovery, finding answers to the many mysteries of the brain. They hope to improve the future of precision mapping and high-quality scanning, and improve drug therapies for many conditions, including neurological and psychiatric disorders. You can find the full story about Midnight Scan Club and the research on hecmedia.org.
They are the best-selling authors and all of your favorite genres. For in-depth, one-on-one interviews, go to hecmedia.org.
As a New York Times best-selling author, psychotherapist, national advice columnist, and TED speaker, Lori Gottlieb brings a hilarious and thought-provoking glimpse into the therapist world, where her patients are looking for answers, and so is she. In her new book, Maybe You Should Talk to Someone.
It's funny because this isn't the kind of thing where you wake up and you say, "I'm going to write a book about myself in therapy," especially if you're a therapist. It's very taboo.
As a therapist, Gottlieb shares how she listens to the music under the lyrics.
A therapist will hold up a mirror to you and help you to see your reflection in a way that maybe you've chosen not to or didn't even look to see. And that's what's really important. I always say that I'm listening for the music under the lyrics. So the lyrics are, here's this breakup. The music is, what is the underlying struggle or pattern that got you into this situation in the first place?
How we are all unreliable narrators of our own stories.
And not because we're purposely misleading, but because we see the story through our own lens.
There's still a lot of people. And shows us what therapy really is, debunking some myths and preconceptions along the way.
People have a lot of misconceptions about what therapy actually is. And one of the things I hope to do in the book is to show, by bringing people in, what it is and what it's not.
Happening now. Construction continues at the Pulitzer Arts Foundation and their new green space opening this spring. Visit the Literary Arts venue in Grand Center with a gallery and cafe open 8 to 3, 7 days a week. The Mighty Mississippi exhibit is open and free to visit at the Missouri History Museum. And while you're there, relive the St. Louis Blues journey to the Stanley Cup.
History Made is the new St. Louis Blues exhibit here at the Missouri History Museum. It's a small exhibit, it's only 4 cases, but it tells some pretty big and important history. In these 4 cases, you will see more than 20 artifacts from the St. Louis Blues Stanley Cup Championship winning series. 2 of my favorite things that you will see all 4 pucks that went in the net in Game 7 of the Stanley Cup Championship. You also will see Jordan Bennington's pads, blocker, and glove. Jordan Bennington prevented goal after goal from the Boston Bruins. You will see all of those attempts literally written on his pads because you will see the puck marks on those pads. So when people think of the Missouri History Museum, they oftentimes think of us telling stories of the founding of the city or the 1849 fire or the building of the Eads Bridge. But equally important is the history that we're living through today. And that was certainly the case when the St. Louis Blues won their first ever Stanley Cup championship. People are oftentimes surprised to hear that we're planning exhibits that are going to happen in 2028 and 2029. We planned that far ahead. Of course, we couldn't plan that far ahead for this particular exhibit. In January of 2019, the Blues were in last place, so who thought that they would have made this historic run? But when they did, we almost immediately started talking to the Blues about some partnerships that we could do, and this is a direct result of that. It would not be possible without that partnership with the St. Louis Blues. You know, I don't think just every Blues fan should come out and see this exhibit. I think every St. Louisan should come out and see this exhibit because it really is about more than the Blues. It's about more than hockey. It really is about a community coming together in celebration of something that they can be part of together. I think that's one of the most exciting things about this season. It's one of the most exciting things about this History Made exhibit.
HEC has been bringing you positive programming and award-winning content for decades. Arts, education, culture, in-depth discussions, films, and more. All in one place, hecmedia.org. To borrow from an old joke, how do you get to Powell Hall? Practice, practice, practice.
Oh, say, can you see?
But on this day, Powell is not the hall these auditioners hope to play. It's this one.
What so proudly we hailed.
For the past 3 years, the St. Louis Blues and the St. Louis Symphony have partnered to give just one person or group the chance to sing the national anthem before a blues game. One of the judges this year was the man who won the contest the first year.
It was just a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. A lot of conversation thinking about how we could find an act that could put their unique spin on the anthem, yet also stay true to the song, stay true to the anthem.
Beautiful.
This year's judges also included Charles Glenn, who just retired after 19 years as the St. Louis Blues anthemist.
I thought it was going to be good, but not this good. I mean, we heard some talent today that was just phenomenal.
Bring him home.
The first round of auditions are sent in online. This year they received about 200 entries. Then the field was narrowed to 30.
To dream the impossible dream.
Those 30 contestants then perform a blind audition on stage at Powell Hall. They can perform any song they want. No peeking allowed.
I like it because you don't judge. You just listen to the talent.
Thank you.
I put myself in their shoes like, come on, pull through, baby, pull through. Yes.
I just have so much fun being, with a mic in my face and being on a stage. I have so much fun. And yeah, with Charles Gunn kind of like echoing one of the choruses, I was like, this is awesome.
Not all the contestants were soloists. These trombonists from the Symphony's youth orchestra thought they might slide by. This duet was supposed to be a quartet, but they had to make a last-minute adjustment because 2 of their members got hung up taking their SATs.
We just added some more notes to make it more full sounding. So we looked at a score and used some music theory knowledge to help us.
And it worked. They made it through to the next round.
What's going to happen in this round is the screen's going to come down and the judges are going to be in the audience.
They drew numbered pencils to determine the order in which they'd perform. For the final round, everyone did the same song.
Gave proof through the night.
There was a brother and sister act.
Was still there.
Luckily for the string duet, by the time they were called to the stage, they had become a quartet again. And then there was the trombone quartet, who decided since this is the land of the free, they'd try something brave.
What we're gonna play, I arranged, and I did this one especially for the blues, so I hope you like it. I also thought of putting Gloria in there, like da da da. I thought that might be like kind of like, but then I tried it and it was tough to put in. So yeah.
Picking a winner would not be easy.
It's going to be very hard to pick just one. After what we heard today, it might be a coin toss.
I am very happy to announce that the winner of this year's National Anthem audition is the trombone quartet from the St. Louis Symphony Youth Orchestra.
When we got called, it was a very surprising moment.
Yeah.
Very excited, all of us.
What really made the difference was Thomas's arrangement. It's going to be very special. It's really unbelievable.
What so proudly we hail.
Although Charles Glenn retired, he still plans to sing the anthem a few times a season. And for anyone thinking of auditioning next season, he has this advice.
Know the words and just sing the song. Don't repaint a beautiful picture.
And that's how you get to Powell Hall, which on this day was truly the home of the brave.
Thank you.
Thanks for watching Spotlight. Join us again next Sunday at 9:30 a.m.